Hello, welcome to another episode of Telling the Reframe Story. I'm Jeff Sapansky, aka Tall Jeff, founder and CEO of Reframe Technologies. This time we're going to talk a little bit more about how we start to take the question of human capacity that we realize and have moved beyond the idea of just thinking about what we're doing with our knowledge work relative to productivity, and really taking a step back and thinking about how we can really increase the capacity of the humans using our computers. The problem that we're seeing is really the information overload aspect of things. It's been so successful with so many applications and so many tabs. We're basically moving from the point where our task level productivity has been increasing through the generations of computing environments and our advances to the point we're in information overload. Too many feeds, too many apps to keep track of, too many Slack channels, too many different emails, all of this stuff. Us using the messy desktops is just the humans in our brains gluing these silos together. And in the context and the sharing of that context is really on the humans to do through all these different tools. And one of the insights behind this from a technology perspective is to realize that another productivity application per se can't really solve this problem, because every new application we make is another one of those silos trying to figure out how to glue the other silos together. And so one of the Reframe insights is realizing that we need to build or enhance and increase the ability of the underlying environment, the desktop itself, to start facilitating the coordination with all of the applications sort of contained within this structure for coordination and collaboration. What would be a better way? What is it that really should replace copy and paste to bring applications together in a much more structured and coordinated way? You know, we have these different applications, but let's make this more specific to exactly things we're used to using. So in my example here, I'm going to show email and Slack and Google Docs and Trello. And each one of these different tools, these application silos, have their various bits of information in them. But as you can see in the chart, we have these different colors. It's really up to us, the humans, using the tools and what's in our heads to keep track of the different bits, the different emails, the different cards in Trello, the different docs in Google Docs, coordinated together as a set. So the red is for one project stream, the green is for another, the white and the black similarly represent the stuff that we're trying to hold together in our heads and share context with people, except the computer doesn't have a fundamental way to do that. And that's really where all of our stress and confusion and complexity and information overload is really coming in to the picture here. And so the question is how do we take these bits out and bring them into something, a more formalized structure, so that the computer is keeping track of this stuff for us and is enabling us to essentially communicate and collaborate through the desktop canvas itself as almost like a new type of medium, a structured medium for not only working and collaborating with the computer itself, working individually, but also working collectively as a group through the computer as a vehicle for us to coordinate, communicate, and collaborate. Key to the Reframe mission then is designing a new coordination language, something that's an artifact, not an explicit language that we would work with directly as end users, but a language that is an outcome. Basically, statements in the language are generated as a result of the gestures that we make within the desktop GUI. What we would call articulations, the articulation work of taking the different bits of things on our desktop, linking those together in the context as we work, and assembling that context in ways that can be shared. So really then it's about taking all the different bits and bringing them together into what we call an organized work environment. So what this ends up in, we claim and are working on, is basically a new protocol and a new codeless language, a language that statements are generated through the gestures in the desktop to bring together this new collaborative environment together. There's a nice parallel to this, which is we see in our browsers actually. When the internet was invented, there was a new protocol called HTTP and a new sort of grammar or language around HTML that really enabled us to have the exact internet that we have today with the World Wide Web. That power, you can see from a browser that implements a new protocol and a new language together, obviously changed the world relative to the internet and our browsers today. What we're really saying with this Reframe coordination language that we're building is we're also bringing together a new protocol to synchronize the context and the grammar provided through the gestures on the desktop to make the same type of leap that we made with the browser, but within our entire work environment on the desktop with all of our applications. Finally, gluing everything together as sort of the next wave of innovation. Now that we're talking about this from the standpoint of building a new language, let's get into a little bit more detail around exactly how you might build this language or what the elements would be. And I've actually alluded to this already, but for the sake of trying to make it feel more real, I think, what we realize is that when we talk about humans working together, we start to realize we want to take things, for example, like what the GROW model that we use in coaching to help people align and advance and build trust and have a common sense of understanding relative to decisions. What kinds of behaviors and methods do we use to align each other to what we're trying to do? What do we believe our current situation is? What options do we have to move forward, and what will we do in terms of an ultimate decision based on the people who are responsible for this work or accountable for these objectives, and blend this together with the idea of accountability and responsibility, and what we would see like in the RACI matrix, where we talk about who's responsible, accountable, involved, or consulted in various decisions. And so that's really the idea here in this language, is to take these elements, which really don't show up anywhere in their existing tools, and combine it with what we would call articulation work, basically taking the different bits that we're interacting with in the different silos and being able to transform them in a context-carrying way. Instead of copying and pasting something from a chat message, into a task or into a meeting agenda, let's just articulate them through gestures in the desktop. So we can take a chat message and turn it into a discussion point, something that we want to talk about in a meeting. So we can articulate a discussion point into an agenda for a meeting that we're going to have, maybe in a video call. And then from there, we make some decisions and then define some tasks. Instead of doing this through a bunch of manual operations of moving things between the different silos and requiring people to do those steps, why don't we just have a coordination grammar that actually facilitates that directly and holds the context rather than the information getting trapped into more and more silos, more and more bits, and more places, and more feeds that we have to go and check. The idea here is to bring that all together into a common context immediately available to you on the canvas, in a sense, of your desktop. And so to put this in historical context then overall, what we're really doing is seeing this progression from the earliest forms of computing when we did batch processing of punch cards and paper tape, fed into the machine and get the answer back tomorrow, into interactive terminals where we could load up a program and interact with the computer directly, to what we have today around application-based multitasking in this desktop GUI, easy to switch between applications, but the computer, in a sense, having no idea how those things are coming together to actually accomplish real work. And so Reframe really then, through this organized work environment that we call it, leveraging this new grammar, is really the path forward that we're trying to pave to really deal with the information overload and get to the next massive increase in human capacity relative to knowledge work. That's what we're really all about here. Thank you for your time, and thanks for listening. As always, feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can hit me up on email, or of course, feel free to reach out to anybody else on the team as well. Look forward to bringing the next episode along soon. Thank you.